All right. Well, it's a small group tonight, but we have what I think is a really interesting program planned, and I'm sure we can have a fun conversation between us after. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Monica Pena. I oversee the Wavemaker Grants program at Locust Projects. Just bear with me as I let a couple more people into the meeting. Showing up a little late. Hi, Nathan, welcome. Feel free to turn on your camera so we can say hello. All right. As I was saying, I coordinate Wavemaker and other programs at Locust Projects. For those of you who might not know yet, Locust Projects is Miami's longest running nonprofit alternative art space. That's a mouthful. We create opportunities for artists at all career stages. We invite risk-taking and experimentation. We activate conversations around new art and ideas, which is of course why we're all hanging out together on Zoom tonight. And we advocate for artists and artistic practices. We're really excited to have, oh my gosh, my mouse just froze. That's fun. Hold on.
We can't see your monitor, so it's fine.
I know, it's fine. I'll have to deal with that in a second. Weird. Just give me 1 second. We're really excited to have Tally Saves the Internet currently on view at Locust Projects. It's on view until this Saturday, October 24th, by appointment only. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, hopefully some of you have, but if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, go to our website, locustprojects.org. You can make an appointment. And if you're not already doing so, follow us on Instagram at Locust Projects so you can keep up with everything that we're up to. I'd like to, of course, welcome Joelle and Owen, creators of Tally Saves the Internet, who you'll be hearing a lot more from in a little bit. Joelle and Owen, if you want to wave hello so everyone knows who you are. There they are. They're actually in North Carolina. Don't let Owen's background fool you. He's not in Miami on the beach, like some of us, but and of course, I'd like to welcome our host today, Casey DeFreitas. Casey was born and raised right here in South Florida and is an editor at IGN, the largest gaming media site in the world. Though she primarily writes and manages the production of strategy guides, she also hosts IGN's Nintendo Voice Chat podcast and other video content. There she has a lot of hosting on her plate tonight even. Casey has written about games professionally since 2012. On her time off, she most likely will be playing video games or streaming on her personal Twitch channel. You can follow Casey on Twitter and Twitch at ShinyCaseyD. So, go ahead and do that if you're interested after today's program. Casey, we're really excited to have you here. And before I turn everything over to you, I just want to mention a few housekeeping things for our audience. At the end of today's program, we'll have a Q&A where we'll all have some time to talk together. We will be taking live questions, so by all means, it's a small enough group. Keep your cameras on, ask questions live at the end. If you have questions come up while Joelle and Owen are presenting, feel free to drop them in the chat window and just get the conversation going that way too. If you're not familiar, if you hover over the bottom of your Zoom window, you'll see a little chat icon. Click that and you can start dropping your questions in there as they come up. For the majority of the program, we recommend speaker view just so that you can see the speakers fully. And then at the end, we can switch back to gallery view so we can all kind of see each other and hang out. This is, of course, a happy hour, so I hope you've all come prepared with your favorite beer or wine, or in my case, tea. Tea is my happy drink. I hear Owen has 2 drinks. I mean, whatever makes you happy, but I hope you're all partaking in that tonight. And I guess that's it for me. I am going to change my mouse batteries. And in the meantime, I'll turn things over to Casey, who will be hosting tonight's program. Casey?
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction, Monica. I really appreciate it. I'm really interested to learn more about the Tally Saves the Internet installation at Locals Projects in Miami. I think I might go down to South Florida this week, so maybe we'll do that. But anyway, hey, I'm Casey. As Monica said, I've been writing about video games professionally since 2012. I love video games, and as you can probably tell from my background, I especially like video games with monsters in them, like Pokemon. So Tally Saves the Internet speaks to me in many different ways, especially because as an only child, I spent a lot of time on the internet doing things I probably shouldn't have done. And Sneak Away Studio, the studio that Joelle Dietrick and Owen Mundy, who are with us right now, founded, does a lot of work that helps educate people on those kind of things. So, and specifically, Sneak Away Studio builds online interventions, animations, and mobile apps to reimagine a more sustainable and equitable digital future. Concerned about the unintended consequences of automated systems, their creations break apart and reconfigure existing structures to build awareness of physical and digital infrastructure. But like I said, we are here specifically to talk about their newest project, which is Tally Saves the Internet. So I'm going to toss this over to Owen and Joelle to tell us more about how Tally does save the internet and can help us all.
All right, can everyone see my, let's see, screen that's not working? Wrong, stop.
Oh, and one more thing, I guess I am monitoring the chat and everything. So if you do have questions that come up, don't worry, I will see them. But after the presentation, we will be accepting questions if you just turn on your camera or your mic. You don't have to have your camera on if you're shy. And we can just chat and have a conversation about everything that Joelle and Owen are going to tell us about right now.
All right, Casey, Monica, thank you for that introduction, and thanks for everyone that's coming. We're gonna sort of walk through Tally Saves the Internet, but I would love to get to the discussion part so that this, this time together is most useful for you as possible. Yeah, thanks again to Locust Projects for hosting this virtual happy hour. Can everyone hear me okay, just before I go on? Okay, great. So it's especially fun to connect to art, tech, and gaming people in Florida since we lived in Florida for 10 years. Owen and I both taught at Florida State for a while, and now we're based in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we teach at Davidson College. Monica and Casey suggested that Owen and I give sort of a brief overview of the game. So my presentation is organized as follows. It's a little bit about our studio, and then a little bit about Tally Saves the Internet, and then a little bit about a related data visualization we're making for NC State in Raleigh. Need to activate, here we go. All right, so this is a drawing that was made by Rafaela Wang of our family in 2014. That year, Owen had won an award at the International Documentary Film Festival for his project, I Know Where Your Cat Lives. Owen and I met, by the way, in San Diego. We were in graduate school at the University of California, San Diego in the Visual Arts Department, and we loved that program. So if anybody has any questions about that grad program, I'm happy to answer those questions. And so before the festival, they asked Owen if they could use his recent Google searches. And then the artist, the person that did this drawing, Rafaela Wang, having never, met us or anything, just based on his Google searches, made this portrait of our family. And so indeed, we do have a daughter, and we have a window of exactly those measurements. And we have been searching for robots for the daughter, our daughter, but I never wear high heels. So I'll let you connect the dot on those possible searches. So what do? We make work about contemporary technology and its automated systems. So we're especially interested in the unintended consequences of those systems, but we try to keep things as playful as possible and just really visually lush. So some of the works are generative. They're driven by code to create infinite possibilities, and others take the forms of like prints, videos, and games. So while we collaborate, we also develop individual bodies of work. So this is from my website. And you can see by the breadcrumb at the top that I gravitate more to painting, installation, code, and drawing. And Owen focuses more on software that's interventionist in nature. So focusing on data, installation, software, visualization. So about Tally Saves the Internet, that's why y'all came here. So it's a perfect example of where our interests merge. Tally Saves the Internet is a browser extension. So you basically go to tallysavestheinternet.com and you can download this browser extension that then layers this character that you see, this little pink character, on top of your browser experience. And so here's the core game loop. First, you just browse the web as you normally do. Second, you find monsters and Tally detects those based on like tags in the page and other information. And then you can actually battle those monsters. You can the monsters can pop up on the page. She turns different colors, and I'll show this in a video next, but you can battle the monsters, or you could just ignore them if you're like busy, doing whatever you have to do for work. And then once you beat the monster, it explodes the internet. So that's one of my favorite things is the fact that it's a progressive data blocker, but that also explodes the web and makes us think about the web in different ways. So if you want to read more about how to actually explode the web, you can, we wrote an article in the Signal Culture Cookbook. So it's more of like a tutorial, and there's the Explode the Web browser extension is also on GitHub with all of the code. So we try to make everything open source so that people can like build on what we've done as we've built on what others have done. In short, Tally Saves the Internet is really super ambitious. It takes on the entire web as its canvas. I come from a painting background, so that's how I like to think of it. And we're hoping that it transforms players' online experience so that we remember that everything online is human-made. So if it's not working for us, the systems are not working for us, we can change them and make them better. And that these, like I said, they can be improved so that it promotes healthier ways of being. So here's a video of gameplay just so that you have a better sense of it. So you can go to any website. So here I went to artpapers.org and I was playing as Given Keyboard 15. As you can see, Tally's in the lower left-hand corner and she turns orange if she sees a monster the first time, and then she turns red. She actually turns yellow, orange, and then red. And then if you find the monster, you click on the monster and you can battle the monster in like sort of Pokemon Go sort of style battle. And so all of the attacks are in orange and all of the defenses are in blue. And I think a big part of the game is the dialogue that comes up. So we try to like draw attention to that as well. Here's a second example of, I was playing as Grumpy Printer. So all of the characters, you get assigned, like there's an anonymous name generator. That's kind of fun. Sometimes you have to scroll down the page to actually find the monster. So this one is like a design monster. And all of the attacks have names that try to get people familiar with surveillance capitalism lingo and strategies. So it's kind of, it's kind of fun in that way. That's one of the goals of the project, is to get people familiar with advertising techniques. So let's see if I can, all right. So so the game is multiplayer. So I just wanted to point out, you can see like how you're playing over time, the number of hours played and how far you've been clicking and scrolling and things that advertisers use against you. And you can see there's the anonymous names that I mentioned: Grumpy Printer, Victorious App, Unlikely Scroller. And you can also see, since it's a multiplayer game, you can see all the things that other players have been doing, whether they blocked a tracker from MailChimp, that's kind of interesting, or if they found a health cookie or, other game events. And here is your page where you can see like sort of your profile page. There you can see all the badges that you've collected as well as the consumables. And so, for example, again, this teaching surveillance capitalism type of lingo, you can earn a big clicker badge or a long distance scroller badge or a FOMO badge. So again, it's all this like trying to get people familiarized with that type of language. And at the bottom of that page, below your attacks and defenses, you can see a pie chart with product marketing categories that give you a sense of how the algorithms match you to advertisements. So Owen's going to talk a little bit more about that, and he'll talk about the monsters. So Owen, I think you're muted. Monica.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'll let you keep sharing your screen though, since you've already got it up.
Yeah, sure.
And you can go ahead and hit play on this page.
Yep.
Thanks, Joelle. It just occurred to me that we didn't actually show the trailer for the project.
Oh, no.
So
major oversight.
Yeah. So you should go watch the trailer after this. It's on the front page of the website, and it's really great. It summarizes the game, and so what we're looking at now is I believe this is one of the videos that's on view at Locust Projects right now, and it's basically a linear tour through all of the product monsters in the game. So we used the Internet Advertising Bureau's, what's it called? The Product Marketing Taxonomy. And so it's a hierarchical categorization scheme, or schema, I guess is a better term, that describes all the possible types of products or services that a consumer or a potential consumer on the internet might be interested in. And the Internet Advertising Bureau, the IAB, defines several other schemas for identifying audiences. And they're basically an industry kind of think tank that organizes information and then kind of tries to standardize the information that is used to match audiences to products. And so we use this as a starting template to build, and we built all of the monsters that go with these. And so for each one of these categories, you're seeing the fine art is the main top tier, and then modern art is the next tier. So and then the rest of the stuff, the attacks that go with these, and it's the stats, the advertising keywords, these are things that we identified. And then of course, obviously the sprites. These are things that we built and mapped on top of the game. So when Joelle says that we're levying the data that's used by the advertising and marketing and attention economy or surveillance capitalism industries, when we're taking that data and transforming the data that's usually collected by these industries and used against you, and we're taking that data and basically making it into this game layer that's turn-based Pokemon style that sits on top of the internet. So the next slide is a preview of so this and the next few slides are a little bit of insight into how we built the game. So this is the spreadsheet, and obviously, like I said, we had to add several columns to this spreadsheet, but it's really interesting to start from to build a game and just say, okay, let's just use the industry's standardizations and build on top of that. So that's what you're looking at. You're seeing the first category is no longer their taxonomy ID, it's now our MID, the monster ID. And then you can see the tags and the direction it's facing and so forth, and other things we need to control to determine what, to make it work in the game. So there's a ton of text in the game. This is another tab in the game that's a list of all the colors and all the palettes that that are the like standard palette colors that go with each category. And then the next slide. So this is a different spreadsheet, but it's the attacks, badges, dialogue, disguises, and then a bunch of level math and badge math and a bunch of other nerdy stuff. But you can see when you look down that that there's a ton of information that we developed to support the project, and many times we're specifically referencing the industry itself, where this is it's a game, but it kind of emerged as a game from the research that we were doing and looking at how automation is influencing trading, or how it's transforming various other industries, but also how automation has become a big part of how surveillance is the base economic model that almost all of Silicon Valley depends on. And so so here's another shot, and you can actually see, Casey, you're gonna love this one. Pokemon, the very first Pokemon on column 0. So we started for the level of math. We started with Pokemon's level system, and then built modified it just a little bit. But that's how tuned in to Pokemon this game is.
So like the experience needed to level up, and how that changes with each level.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have just a couple of slides, I think, from the visualization we're making. And so we launched the game in technically August, but then I broke my leg 4 weeks later when we were kind of building up. And then now we're finishing a visualization that shows basically a live view of all the players. One of the goals in this project is education. And making not only the language, but the systems of surveillance capitalism tangible. And so the visualization is a way to look at all the players in the game, but also see what data trackers are actually following them at that very moment. And you can see those in the stripes. And I think, Joelle, if you go to the next slide, we can see the video that gives a much better version of this. And so this is a working version. We're building, so Tally Saves the Internet is built, it's a browser extension. So it's HTML, CSS, JavaScript on the front end, and then it's a API server on the back end. This is basically, we're rebuilding it all in Unity, which is an actual game engine. And it's a visualization that shows all the players in real time and their data trails. And we don't have a video of the finished version, but when you zoom in, you can actually see what specific marketing categories have been associated with them. And then you can see the trackers that are actually collecting the data in real time. So this video is showing not only the length of the data trail, which gives you a clue to how many trackers are following a particular monster, but whether or not someone is battling a monster, which you just saw with the red icon, or whether they've just collected a consumable item like a cookie. So it's still very much in progress, but so that's a preview of it. And what's the next slide? Oh, yeah, so here's another version of it. It's really great to actually shift to working in Unity on this visualization, because we've already got all the assets made. And but now, instead of writing a game engine from scratch in JavaScript and then building a game on top of that at the same time, I can actually use an actually full-fledged game engine with built-in physics and things. And it's so instead of like a 2-year production, it's more like a 8-week process. So anyway, we're producing this for several visualization studios at NCSU, including one that is a it's a 12:1 ratio, aspect ratio. So it's a 27,000 pixel by 1080 pixel display. And yeah, that's the image of the room. And so it's, but it'll also show up on several other ones, and then we're going to put it on mobile too. So you will be able to see your data trail in the visualization on like an iPad or iPhone at the same time that you're playing the game, if you like. And yeah, and so then there's a photograph at the end of all of our, Joelle and I are the leads, but we built this thanks to grants, thanks to support from organizations like Lotus Project and ECSU and the Center for Long-Term Cybersecurity at Berkeley, and also through grants at Davidson College, where we were able to hire some of our best students from our game and our digital art classes.
Yeah, great.
And there's our daughter at the very bottom, who, so that photograph at the very bottom is us. That's 2 years ago. We were at the East Coast Games Conference, which is in Raleigh, and we took two of our classes there and our kid. So I think that's the last slide.
All right.
Yeah, that's it.
So I personally have a lot of questions for you, but I assume some of our audience members also have questions. But so I don't completely dominate the remaining time that we have. If any of you have questions while I'm talking, if you can just ping me in the chat, say like, hey, I have a question, and then I can toss it over to you. And if you are comfortable, you can unmute yourself and speak yourself. But if you're not comfortable with that, go ahead and just enter it into the chat and I will read it for you, whichever you feel more comfortable doing. So while I'm asking my first question, go ahead and start thinking of your own. But yeah, thank you both Owen and Joelle for that incredibly informative presentation. It honestly already answered a lot of the questions that I had, but I still have more, some of which I haven't told you about yet. So I hope that is okay. But I'll start off with my first one. So with the interactive websites, like I know where your cat lives and games like Packet Switching and now Tally Saves the Internet, it seems both of you have kind of a passion for creating subject matter that visualizes the inner workings and kind of like unsettling nature of the internet. Can you tell us about what first inspired you to make interactive art and games like that?
Owen, me? Well, I think Owen and I have always been interested in art. We love galleries and museums, and I will always show there and always be super connected to them. But I think we also have a real passion for getting artwork out to the greater public. So we both have like working class backgrounds. And so we're always like, Owen started a billboard, Art on Billboards art nonprofit in Bloomington, Indiana, when he was in an undergrad. And I've worked at Carnegie Mellon, where there was like a community-based art requirement. So again, that connecting to the wider community, which is also a passion for Locust projects. That was one of the reasons we were like, oh, we want our, you know, as the internet developed, we wanted our work on the internet so people could experience it there. And the same with games. I mean, one of the reasons we got into games is we had our daughter and she was like so excited about games and things on, you know, the phone, and the visuals just in the past like 10 years have just gotten so incredible, and we wanted to be a part of that. So, and as far as the surveillance aspect, Owen, did you want to talk about any of like sort of your background in the Navy or I know.
Yeah, I was in the, before I did my undergrad, I was in the Navy. I was a photographer, and, you know, I thought I was going to go and just study photography and do like, you know, documentary photography or something. And instead I got orders to San Diego, and I worked on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier unloading surveillance film. And so that was really exciting. At that time, it was not ideal, but you know, through that experience, you know, the kind of new world, and then when I returned to San Diego, I'd been making art and working with digital art. Actually used like a pre-release version of Photoshop in the Navy to do analysis of the aerial surveillance. And but when I returned to San Diego to do my master's, I started to think about how my job was now automated, because it's all done by drones now, and you have a visitor, Joelle, and and how everything is kind of becoming software and automating, and it's just more of humans doing the same, which is like make a lever or take a wheel, and one moment I can say, so anyway, I started to think about surveillance a lot more deeply, and when I made I Know Where Your Cat Lives, it was because Sophia, who's like sneaking around in the background there, was like, I think at the time she was like 5, and it was when I discovered Instagram. It was 4 years ago, and so I was taking pictures of her in the backyard, and then one day I realized that there was a map button. I clicked it because I was curious, and I found out that Instagram had been collecting locational data by sneaking into the metadata of the photographs. And so I went online, I registered. It was free to get a developer account on their website, and I was like, oh, not only can I can just go and like do any search for any word, and find all of these people's like home addresses and even the room where they took their photograph of their child or their cat, but any company can, and even a dictator, so if you're in a country where you don't have free speech, and you're putting stuff on Twitter or Instagram, or you work for the press, and so it's just a major data leak, and so that's why I made that project to bring attention. It's both an educational piece, but also, just like Tally, it's a way to, I guess cats are kind of like beauty in paintings, right? Painters have long, and artists have long used beauty to get your attention, to get you to stop and look at something, to get you to think about an idea. And so I did that with cats, and in many ways, Tally is we'll talk more deeply about how it's a game and why it's really suited as a game about the internet. But I think the initial thought was that as a game, it actually would draw a lot more attention and involve people to think more deeply, because like, what do you do with games? It's basically like a place where you go to work, but at the same time consider ideas. And so
yeah, and if I could just piggyback on something you just said, Owen, and jump in here. My background is in the arts. It's not in gaming like Casey's, or even in tech and art, but I do think that one thing that artists do so well is make things that are sort of invisible visible, and I think that's what Tally does. It kind of brings all these kind of behind the scenes stuff that we may not be conscious of in our day-to-day lives to the foreground, and it does it in a really fun, cute way, which I think is what you're saying is kind of how you engage people to think more critically about things kind of happening behind the scenes and invisibly, and from my perspective, that's really one part where the artistry really comes in.
So it sounds like Tally Saves the Internet is a really good teaching tool from the way you've been talking about it, but I'm curious, like, how do you envision people playing Tally Saves the Internet to benefit them the most? Like, what would the cycle of gameplay be to get the most knowledge out of Tally Saves the Internet? Because there are so many intricate things that go into this game, like even just the names of the attacks and the things that come up in the window. Is there a way that you can like click on something and learn more, or can you? That was a lot of questions in one, but I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, it's good. We actually do have a learn more page. So there were a lot of people that inspired us. Everything from documentary films to books. So that's a really helpful tool for people. And as far as what we hope people get out of it, again, it is that idea, like we were very inspired by Shoshana Zuboff. She wrote a book called In the Age of Surveillance Capitalism from 2019. She's a Harvard professor, and that book is all about teaching people to name surveillance capitalism, to get the lingo down. And then if you name it, you can understand it. And if you can understand it, you can reimagine it in better ways. So that a lot of that like wordplay that happens on in the game was really focused on that. But it's also a progressive data, like a tracker blocker. So, and Owen knows the intricacies of that. So maybe he could speak to that part of the game as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because in the beginning it was in a very early version it was, you know, kind of more of a scavenger hunt, and then as we played, you know, these early versions and then you know reevaluated them, it kind of like gradually and organically morphed into a turn-based RPG, and before long we were like describing it as Pokemon Go for the internet, but you're fighting surveillance capitalism. And but you know, we were always, you know, we're always kind of balancing this need to create an engaging experience that someone would enjoy enough to continue playing with, you know, making sure we weren't actually perpetuating the problem. You know, because like earlier I kind of interchanged the words, the reference to surveillance capitalism with the attention economy. You could also say surveillance economy. They're all interrelated and there's so much overlap there. But that, you know, if we were making a game that's critical of the attention economy, but at the same time we're asking people to spend more time on the internet, then that's a contradiction we weren't ready to face. And so we started to discuss how can we make this have more benefits, and that's when we leaned into the education piece, and we developed the idea that it could actually block the trackers. The way that works, incidentally, is that we're using the disconnect list. Disconnect Me is one of a few different like full-fledged, full-featured web tracker blockers. Ghostry is another one. Mozilla has made some. One's called Privacy Badger. And with each of these, you know, their job is dedicated to blocking web trackers and keeping your information from being, you know, siphoned up by these companies and then used against you in the middle of the night to get you to vote for Ted Cruz or something. And so we're using the actual list of trackers that Disconnect publishes on GitHub, and we've incorporated that into the game, and that's how we keep track of those trackers. And so there was one more piece of your question, Casey, that I wanted to talk about, and that's like how do we imagine somebody playing this? And it was really hard to get kind of over this hump, because we've been calling it, the genre is it's a passive turn-based RPG. And so because you install Tally and then you just kind of do your thing, you just use the internet, and then Tally will talk to you when it's time for you to do something. So I'm looking over my computer now, and Sophia has opened Breath of the Wild and is playing it. And so she's like on a map right now, and she's like engaging with people and usually trying to avoid monsters, but but it's but in Tally you just do your thing, and then she will engage you with the badges or the consumables or the monster that you can get, and then hopefully there's the learning and the tracker blocking mechanism.
Kind of a more minute gaming question, but I saw the badges, and for example, one of them's called, I think, Negonomics. How do you go about earning those badges? They kind of remind me of the achievements on like the PlayStation or Xbox.
Joelle, you're gonna have to talk.
No, you gotta take that one, because it's
the badges.
It's a game mechanic question.
So Joelle,
I can talk about the design of the badges, but Owen takes over the actual.
You developed most of the ideas for the badges.
I want to know who made the spreadsheets, because those are very impressive.
Those are
Well,
combined
you know,
effort.
if you look on a lot of game sites, they have their spreadsheets published. Like it's kind of crazy that they're like, look, this is how we build our game. And it's amazing how many spreadsheets are around.
Do you export those directly like into a usable? Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
We do the same thing for our websites.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's fascinating. Like Google Docs is like essential to our ability to communicate and collaborate. And I wrote some node scripts that package all that stuff as JSON objects. And without those, it would just be, we would still be working on the game for 2 more years. But the badge spreadsheet is really, I think Joelle developed a lot of the ideas there, and obviously did all the drawings. The math that's happening under the hood is based on a few different pieces. So when you go to a web page, a lot of the game depends on the content of the web page. I tried to echo the way that the advertising industry exists right now, and it's a constant process of trying to evaluate your behavior and predict and sell those predictions to somebody else in order to influence your behavior. And so we're doing the same thing. We look at the H1 tags, we look at the meta tags, we look at all the other information. We'll look at the domain name, and so if you're on a car website, then we can make actions happen based on that. And then data is kind of processed, and it's all anonymous. You have to, in fact, we almost actually enforce that you play anonymously. But that's those spreadsheet screenshots we showed earlier are a combination of the information that contains tags that are matching, or the amount of time that you're spending in this particular domain or space, and then that's how the math is happening.
Yeah, thank you for those explanations. And I just wanted to call out again to our audience, if you would like to participate in the conversation, by all means, unmute yourselves. Marco, Alian, I apologize if I mispronounced your name, but hello, Daniel.
We see you.
But yeah, if any of you had any project that you're currently working on that might be even mildly related to anything we're talking about, feel free to share. Feel free to say hello. Come on in.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you're working on. Yeah, any ideas you're having? Any questions?
So I have a technical questions.
Howie, can you tell us how to pronounce your name? Because I keep wanting to say it, but I'm not sure how to say it.
Alian.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, but no problem.
Right.
Wonderful, thank you. I love your background, by the way. That's really cool.
Oh, thank you. I'm a New World School of the Arts student, and I'm majoring in art and tech. And my question is, does this spreadsheets are used for 2D games, or it can also be applied to 3D games?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll just give an overview. It's a Google spreadsheet, but then Google Spreadsheets has an API in the background. They have a node package that you can use, and then you just once you give permission to your node app, your JavaScript app, then you can just ping it from your local computer. And so that's what I do. I just run a script, and it says and it just goes and hits, I think there's like 15 different spreadsheets or so, and then it gets those, and then I do some stuff with it, and then I export as JSON files.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
right.
And so it's my first time using those, and when from now on, I'm going to do it the same way. It's just JSON, and so you can use that in Unity or any game.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because I'm using right now. I'm learning Unreal Engine that is similar to Unity. Yeah. Kind of similar. Yeah, I'm still learning how to use like spreadsheets and stuff like that into the game engine. So that's why I asked how to deal with that. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't show any images of our dialogue spreadsheet, but there may be like 600 lines of dialogue, and but we're adding new stuff all the time, and so the fact that, somebody finds a typo, they can just go in and fix it, and I don't have to think about it. I just run that script that packages all the data for the next build.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right.
Thank
And,
you.
Marco, I saw that you had a question.
Yeah, well, it's not related gaming, but I'm working with my augmented reality device, but I want to create an experience in my next exhibition, but I'm not sure how to. Maybe and you can guide me, but I'm not sure how to make it happen. So I created and I have it here and I have it in the cloud, but how I'm going to be able to put it in a gallery?
Well, I think that's a great question for them, because we've talked a lot about, the browser extension aspect, but you also have an installation on view at Locust Projects right now. So can you talk a little bit more about kind of how those things operate together, and how you kind of manifested this in like a brick and mortar space?
Joelle, what are the pieces that are up there?
Yeah, so the two, it's actually not the Product Monster video, but like a live gameplay video, and then the trailer. So it's just the two projections. But that's different than doing the VR development, right, Owen? That would be a different output. You would be executing a different file.
You just take everything in a kind of case by case basis. For Tally, we have an automated version that runs the game. When nobody's playing it, it'll start running on its own, and that's just another script that I built that runs it on its own. If you're doing VR, then it's probably Unity or Unreal or something like that. And Unity has a whole bunch of different tools for building. I haven't spent much time with Unreal, but I know they're also adding lots of different tools. And so you just have to make that decision, like, oh, does the gallery have an iPad? Well, I guess then I'll have to use a tool that'll allow me to export to an Apple developer platform.
So, and Marco, I'm sorry if this is a silly question. I guess my question is that you've built something to be used with the VR headset, and you'd like other people to use it with the VR headset in an art installation?
Well, I wanted to. I built an activation where people is holding a candle.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's possible to leave the device at the gallery, or with an iPad or the cell phone, make it the same effect.
We were just in an exhibition with Sabine Grafat. She teaches at UNC Chapel Hill, and she had done a VR piece on eating disorders, actually, which sounds like it could be didactic and maybe awkward, but it was amazing, like really incredible. I'm in awe of her. And I think she had the VR set, like the headset, like hanging from the ceiling. And then she was walking people through, and she would hand them the device so that you could actually go through the game. And then she had a projection of pre-recorded gameplay, so that we, as the people in the gallery, could not see what the person with the headset was seeing, but it still gave you a sense of the game. And then people took turns. Of course, in the era of COVID, it's like a disaster, right? Because everyone's touching these things. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to do it where you could sanitize things, but I know a lot of galleries and museums are very wary of that right now, but eventually I think it's a real possibility. I can put her name in the chat too, so you have it. Yeah.
Great.
At gaming conventions, they have kind of disposable mask plates for everyone. So it's an attachable thing that it's what's touching your face, and it attaches into the VR device that you can then keep or throw away, ideally, because you don't want to use it for another device somewhere else. But it is possible.
Yeah.
So, and,
Thank you.
Yeah. Alian, did you have another question?
I know. I'm just want to say that, let's see, if you build that in Unity, I know that Unity has the ability to export, to make it like a VR experience, 360, and then upload it to its own website through the same program, to the same Unity. I know that it offers that. So it can be helpful to put it like on a browser or something instead of, and everybody can access through online instead of a physical space. Like it can be useful for VR. I think so. I don't know.
Thank you. And so speaking of physical installations, like Joelle and Owen, curious, what project of yours has been the most difficult to translate into a physical installation? And how did you problem solve for it?
Joelle's eyes just got big.
Oh,
Flashbacks.
I think Tally has been one of the trickiest, don't you think, Owen? I mean, it was just it's so ambitious. And I mean, it's been nice when we had the product monster, like videos or the trailer, like videos to loop in a gallery space, no problem. But to get the interactive piece, oh, and you set that up for Davidson College.
Yeah, well, so the CAT website has the same thing going on.
Oh, that's true.
It's because it's JavaScript. I was able, and it already works in every web browser. So I just wrote a script. If you know the right key combination, you can put the website into like gallery mode, and it just loads a new random cat every 5 or 10 seconds, and you can just watch it load cats from all over the world. Tally is doing the same basic thing. It's just it's basically like a game loop kind of, but it's a separate coroutine that's just kind of like doing the actions of a player. And if somebody walks along and picks up the mouse and starts playing it, it pauses on its own. It's really, to me, that's not the one I would name. I would say that the packet switching project would be the hardest. That's the one where we started to take Revit files, which are when an architecture firm makes a building, they use a Revit file or something from Autodesk, and they can zoom all the way in and tell you the model number of the particular like fire extension hanger or fire, so they've got all these details in it, and we wrote a script that exploded that and then recombined it into a new way. And then we visualized that, we animated that, we also installed it at University of Florida, Central Florida,
Like Gainesville. No,
Gainesville. University of Florida, right?
Yeah, Gainesville.
And so that's in their School of Journalism. If you walk in, there's this giant mural that goes all the way around these windows in the kind of atrium area. That one was definitely the hardest because it involved a scissor lift. It involved weeks and weeks and weeks of planning and printing, and so that's the one I would have to say. It's the least exciting one to describe, but it definitely was the hardest. Oh, and Joelle got sick the day we started.
No.
Yeah. But I mean, in general, like one of the things that we've gotten in the habit of doing, I know we're like, at the end of our hour here, but we often work in vector now so that we can blow up the imagery. So if we want to do wallpaper, we can do that, or we can, that's much more flexible for many different types of output for a physical space. So that might be helpful for people.
Tally herself is an SVG file. If you inspect that in the browser, you'll find that there are lots of SVGs in the game.
So I have a really simple question, but seems to be a lot of monster designs, and I wanted to know how many are there, and does that directly correlate to how many product marketing tags there were? I hope I use the terminology correctly, but
yeah, you're fine. Okay. There's 204. I wrote this down today. 206 monsters that are finished, and there's over 700 marketing categories. So there's another 500 that could be done. I always thought it would be interesting to like crowdsource that to get a variety of styles and just I don't know.
Cool.
It would be so cool, right? Like there's an artist, Aaron Koblin, who I love, and he did a project called Sheep Market where he had everyone draw. He actually used Amazon Turk to pay people like a couple cents to draw a sheep facing left or something. And just to see the variety of styles is amazing. But it's so much to organize, and Owen and I just can't, can't do it right now. But that's kind of the dream. But yeah, there's a lot of variety of styles because a lot of different like students and myself have worked on things. On developing the monsters, and even my own monsters. When I look at my early designs compared to more recent ones, like we learned that the ones that are a little bit more three-dimensional in appearance pop off the browser page, or if you have the highlights just right, again, it pops off the page and holds up on different browser, different web pages. So yeah, it's changed. It's just sort of a natural part of working as a small team. I think if you had 500 people working on the game and that they all had like a style guide, you could have everything be very cookie cutter, but it is what it is, and it's fine.
So we are just about at time, but we do have one more question from Jordan, and she asked, what vector design programs do you use for the in-game graphics?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we use Photoshop. You can make vectors in Photoshop now, which is nice. And yeah, that's what we use.
Cool. Well, Owen, Joelle, thank you so much. And thank you, Elaine, Marco, and Daniel, and Jordan for all joining for this presentation, and happy hour conversation. Monica, do you have any closing words before we say goodbye?
Just to reiterate the thank yous to Joelle and Owen for sharing so generously about your project. It really opened up my eyes to a lot of new things. And thank you to those of you who joined us tonight. I know it was a small audience, but it was nice to hear your questions and kind of get a sense of what you're working on and curious about. And of course, Casey, thank you so much for bringing your expertise. I certainly would have been completely lost. I mean, I can barely say browser extension, so I would have been completely lost having to lead a conversation about gaming and kind of all the interrelated topics. So thank you for being here with us.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank everyone.
Have a good night.
Good night.
All right, say hi to Sophia for us.
Okay, will do. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.